I remember in my early work getting a little frustrated with inspirations and ideas I would be getting, but I'd have the feeling of, but that's not a big deal. That's not big enough. I see this in people who are apprentices who are trying to break into serving the world, and they're very hesitant to share their first video, their first article, their first something, because it doesn't seem like a big deal. But as we go through this, remember that when you're doing any of this, it's with connection with divine power. And so what you're actually giving people is a giant pile of loaves and fishes when all you brought was a few little things that was not enough. And so as you strive to be of any value to the world, it's hard to remember that what people are receiving is a whole lot more than what you're giving when you are teamed up with divine power. It's a faith gesture, it's a hope gesture that I'm tossing my few loaves and my few fishes to the people, and somehow it goes through some magic filter that like multiplies it into a whole bunch more, so what they receive is a whole lot more than what I gave. In the middle of the COVID dynamic, my daughter transitioned from high school to college. She tried out for the college dance team. They didn't do tryouts the normal way. They allowed the girls to videotape themselves doing a series of things to avoid the COVID problem. I thought it was going to be great, and it was the worst nightmare ever. She was going through each one of the movements with a mirror and a camera, and she must have done every one of them probably 50 or more times, trying to get it perfect. And I was there with her once during one of her things, and she was burned out, exhausted, but her drive would go, do it again, do it again. Later on, we talked about what's the difference between that and what you do with tryouts. And she says, tryouts are way easier because you prepare, you fling it, and then you're done. I want you to think about this with respect to your gifts and talents on giving thing. So please take a look at your talents, and then don't wait until you have formulated the perfect gift or tool. Step in, give what you have, let the atonement cover the difference so that you're not stopped. I am convinced that this is another very complex and powerful satanic strategy. If he's got those who he can keep from even thinking of things, those he can keep from following through on things, then there's those who have great ideas that he's got to cripple them through the intent to be perfect/excellent. Last night in the Eternal Warriors class, one of the things I wanted to demonstrate was you're not going to finish the process every time you do it. You're going to maybe find one or two or three things that you can work on, but you can't sit and do your planning and pondering all day long. So when the timer goes ding and it's time to go into your real world work, just take what you were able to harvest, even if it's a few little things. I was teaching to schedule your next DPAR session, your next personal planning session, your next review, revise, reflect, recommit session. At the end of it, the very first thing you do when you're following through on a planned meeting with yourself is to schedule the next meeting. Because for me, I get so engaged in what I'm learning and processing that I forget to set up the next meeting. The first thing to do whenever you need to regain momentum is to make an appointment with yourself at a certain time and certain location with certain resources and get your first meeting in place. And the first thing you do at that meeting is schedule your next meeting. I'm interested because it's a reoccurring theme. Do any of you have a method that you use to make sure you keep having meetings with yourself? If no one has an answer to that, I want that to be somewhat reassuring. The best of us haven't figured out how to do it, and so we should still keep trying and still keep looking for a way to do it. They call it the Las Vegas reward system. Look at the parenting philosophies of how vital they say it is to be consistent. Well, take a second to think about the inconsistencies of the Las Vegas reward system. Now, imagine sitting down at a slot machine and putting money in it, and you get a consistent result. I don't know if you know this, but most of the gambling resources are intentionally designed so that it only gives out about 90 cents for every dollar that's put in on average. Imagine sitting down at a slot machine, putting $1 in, and you get 90 cents out. How long would you keep doing that? This isn't a good idea, but statistically speaking, that's the most likely result you're going to get, or worse. What they found out is people are highly motivated, as you know, to do this gambling thing, even though the odds are against them. When you are inconsistent with your work, there's an okay element to that because you can still get results. I have a huge testimony of this because of my own personality. I will do 30 seconds worth of thinking and planning one day and then 2 hours the next day. Well, you can't get any momentum if you're that inconsistent. My personality gets really bored really fast with the same thing every day. I need the stimulation of diversity. And so I do more this day, less that day, more writing one day, less writing. I'm making a big deal out of this so that if you experience inconsistency, that you become aware that that's completely okay. So when you go, I need to get back on this, don't spend any time with the idea of I've been bad, I've been wrong, I've been doing it wrong, I'm guilty, I need to feel shame. No, make the next appointment with yourself, decide the wise amount of time to spend doing it, and then do it, and then make another appointment, and make another appointment. Even if that next appointment's 3 days later. It's really important that you use wisdom to balance this all out, and not shame and guilt. I hope I'm not making too much time on that, but it seems to be a big deal with the people I meet. So if I want to give people many loaves and many fishes, and I only bring so many, this is the recipe for how to bond with God in producing lots of fish, lots of loaves. The Father's plan is based on righteousness, keeping commandments and receiving sacred ordinances and honoring these covenants. So we have a recipe there where we can take any one of them and put it into a depar and say, all right, I need to reflect on my righteousness, I need to reflect on my keeping commandments, I need to receive sacred ordinances and then honor those. We have 4 different categories you could spend some time deparing on. Okay, my friends, I want to nail down some main points today. Number 1, whenever you feel like your life is missing some direction or missing some momentum, step 1, schedule your next meeting with yourself and start practicing the art of reviewing your mission statement, your identity statement, cleaning up, revising it. If this is a new concept for you, join us in Eternal Warriors 3.0 because we're teaching this in great detail. This whole process of anchoring yourself to your true values and the process of getting your life to be in harmony with that. Eternal Warriors revolves around the self-mastery process of getting your life doing what you want it to do instead of being a victim of the environment. First step is those frequent appointments with yourself. I would say daily, but it doesn't have to be daily. It can be twice on one day and then skip a day and then again.